This week on your Old School RuneScape update, Project Rebalance's skilling updates arrive, bringing new agility ideas and a return to some old skills. The Mage Training Arena is also less painful now, and we discuss the Varlamore Group Boss. Does the Prayer Regeneration Potion hit the spot? This is the Old School RuneScape Update, episode 27, recorded Saturday, May 11th, 2024. Killing the trash. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. Sirion and myself are here as we are each and every week. How has your week been?
Mixed bag, honestly.
A mixed bag of monkey nuts, bananas, and creme brulees?
No, yes. I was actually thinking a little bit further back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like this week, we had a few bank holidays in the Netherlands. So it was like a long weekend for me, but...
Oh, so it's a good time to train then.
Yeah, and then all kinds of other things happened, so... It mixed bag.
Yeah, hopefully not bad things then. Hopefully not bad things. No. But, of course, if you're joining us for the first time, the Old School RuneScape Update talks about the week in RuneScape news, what we've been doing in RuneScape, and any other sort of little bits and bobs that creep up through the Old School RuneScape community. You can find us in-game at a friends chat, which is called BitsBytes. We also have a community Discord over at update.show/discord. And, of course, my name is Shane12088. And I am with my co-host. I tend to have co-hosts all the time that don't have numbers in their names. I don't know how you guys manage that, but Sirion with a C, not the iOS virtual assistant. That's far less useful than you.
Low bar, but thanks.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. We'll see if it gets an update next month when WWDC happens and they roll out what's happening with iOS 18. But Apple stuff aside, and tech news aside, we got Project Rebalance, the skilling portion of it this week, along with Mage Training Arena changes. I wasn't expecting this soon, were you?
No, this actually caught me by surprise. I was under the impression we would get a single big update at the end of the month
with the combat stuff in it too. Yeah,
exactly.
And I saw this post and like, oh, did the combat stuff also come out with this? No, it didn't. Okay, because that would be honestly a quick turnaround from things we were talking about only 2-3 weeks ago. But nonetheless, this brings the changes to agility, mining, Slayer, and thieving. I'm most excited about the agility and the Slayer changes personally, now that I get to see them in action. I don't know about you.
Mining changes to model out mine is nice. It's a little bit less competitive now, because of the timer based thing in the lower level.
That's actually a good point. I should go back there and check that. Because I did a lot of that on leagues, but I haven't done much of it on main here. So that's a good point.
Yeah, other than that, Mage Training Arena is going to be less painful now. I can finally go and do the Bones to Peaches grind. That's sort of the biggest thing left.
I look at that and I'm like, it's part of an achievement diary, and maybe one day I'll get there. But there's just such utility behind doing all that, right?
Yeah, like the Lumbridge Diary is also really good because of the ring, of course, the Explorer's ring. The next level would give me unlimited teleports to the Cabbage Patch, so all of a sudden that unlocks way more daily runs for me than the current 3.
Right, because then you're relegated to using either Spirit Tree if you have 83 farming there from the GE or running from Drainer.
Yeah, and I can't be bothered. And like the other bottleneck, of course, is the Ardoin Heart Diary. But like what I then tend to do is I log out at one of the patches that I have limited teleports on, so I can effectively double their use.
That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, so I get 4 runs in per day with 3 teleports on the Explorer's Ring and 3 on the Adoran Cape. So getting infinite teleports would get me up to 6 because I can use all of the charges.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that each run you ended off at one of the harder to reach spots, so you don't need to use a teleport charge to get there.
Exactly.
So
and
you know what, when it comes to the farming herb runs, I of course was jumping up and down when we saw the dev blog for this, and I wasn't sure if they were going to keep this in, but you know, I definitely do have the need to now push to, I think it's 73 agility, I think it is, for the Troll Stronghold roof agility shortcut, now that that's unlocked with Project Rebalance this week. So I'm just sitting there kind of looking at that and thinking, you know, quest requirements are good, but maybe in the interim do some agility on that. And I saw this absolutely hilarious video on X this week about rune crafting at Shiloh Village using the Diary Cape and the new shortcut that they added there. Now, obviously, right now this is a huge moneymaker, and I expect that will tamp down in the future, but it has been benchmarked with this new shortcut that was put here. This can kick nature rune crafting up to about 71,000 XP an hour.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether that's going to be meta shifting or what have you, but I remember the days way back when RuneScape 2 first came out, that the only way to efficiently craft nature runes was to hire a gang, a collection maybe of runners, and have them run between the general store there and unnote your essence. And here, lo and behold, we have teleports now, putting the nature altar within steps of teleports and shortcuts. And this has to have been thought about when they put the shortcut here with Rebalance, right?
Yeah, you'd hope so. I mean, honestly, to get all of the teleports and accesses, of course, like it's hidden behind. Like, I mean, the quick banking, you need the crafting cape and the quick.
Like, it's not something that anybody can do. It's a number of things layered together.
Exactly.
And the in many ways, the Shiloh Village shortcut is just really the cherry on top that enables the whole damn thing. But the reason
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good to move in that direction, if I'm being honest. And the reason I mention it is because I think we're going to be seeing a series of these sorts of things happen when all of the Project Rebalance stuff is out. Is that, you know, we get the overview of what it's going to be, but then it does stuff beyond that we didn't initially think about. And because of that, I think that's, you know, the true benefit of Project Rebalance at the end of the day, in my view, and kind of why we need to do these pieces of updates. But I think the last thing on this for me is that I feel like I can now use Cheldar, the Fairy Slayer master, now that she no longer assigns metal dragons.
Yeah, that should help your Slayer grind a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Slayer to be done.
Also got rid of some really dumb things like Banshees, Cave Slime, Infernal Mages, and Harpy Bug Swarms. So
yeah, those
because those are like those are the trash of Slayer.
Yeah.
In terms of like the in terms of, you know, for folks unaware, in bigger games like World of Warcraft, you go on a raid, you get to the main boss, but before that you have to kill the trash, which is lower leveled NPCs that really, you know, don't serve any purpose other than blocking the way, and that's what I just called these ones here. But overall,
trash.
What? Yeah, I called them trash.
You have to kill the trash. Yeah.
Kill the trash.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I mean, part of
And I mean, part of it might be the way I think of Slayer in general too, right? So I'm just letting it go, and I'm just gonna pummel that skill to death now that that's there. I also think people will have a good time with the paladins and whatnot now that those have been adjusted, but that's probably something we can dive into later on once it's time to do some more thieving as we progress through that after we stop burgling houses. But anything else with Rebalance on that from your perspective, or the Mage Training Arena? Or are you just happy to be able to jump into all this at the end of the day?
Yeah, no, that's really it. I'm just glad it's here. I think none of it is going to be game changing or game breaking for me. But that's kind of the point, I feel.
Right, just little quality of life fixes that enhance everybody's gameplay by a bit.
None of this seems to. I mean, I'm happy that the I haven't even. I should really be looking at the new shortcuts. What I did notice, and I did really appreciate that, is I was working on my Iron Man this week, and being able to just do Drain a Village, great, because you're there. It's right there to do it, and not having to go all the way to the Gnome Stronghold. I actually did 2 laps of the Shazian basic course as well. The first one for the achievement, and the second one because a Mark of Grace had spawned, and I didn't want to miss out on that.
No.
So I think that's great.
Yeah,
giving that option.
I want to go back to the agility arena. Sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, I will probably do. I was thinking of doing a bunch of training at the agility arena as well on my Iron Man. I probably won't on my main anymore, but yeah. No, I'm glad I waited with training any further agility now that this has come out.
Yeah, same. I think I'm level 67, so it's going to help a bit in that regard.
Would be nice to get the Desert Heart Diary done then, I guess, right? Before I go and train at a poly. Don't know what the requirements for that are going to be, but I don't even have the requirements for easy yet because we haven't done the quests.
Yeah, so many quests to do, so many things to see, and I feel like a lot of that has been driven by what we've had and where we've been and what we've been doing in Varlamore, of all things. And when we put this out on the map, so to speak, the metaphorical map and the physical map, which I actually have one of. Believe it or not, I have one of those 20th anniversary Gielinor maps and Varlamore's on there, but that's a topic for another show. We also got the details this week for the group boss at Varlamore, and you and I were kind of in the same boat for this one, in that, you know, they say the combat is aimed at folks with around level, 90 plus total combat level and access to protection prayers, but much like you, I felt that I didn't really get much from the explanation in terms of the gameplay of this boss.
No, it felt like I've been praising the clarity and amazing communication. I'm sorry, I can't even imagine what this looks like. It
felt very abstract.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you climb a mountain and then you kill the thing, and then there is tills it can use to defend itself. That's about what I got from it. I have no idea how to imagine this, so I don't know. We'll just have to see, I guess.
And I mean, level 90 combat and a group of 3 to 8, that's not necessarily like the highest of highest. It's not raid level. So it should be,
but that's what the
Colosseum
is for already, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah. Okay. But at the same time, it's, if you do have, level 120 plus combat, you're gonna, probably be able to cakewalk most of this stuff, and that'll be where as they say, that'll be where the fun begins. But the one thing that did stand out to me on this, and I feel like this stood out to everybody, was the rewards for this, and we'll have to wait and see more about, the actual gameplay. But when it comes to rewards, we got the Tome of Earth, and muddy pages, which I don't think there's much to write home about there. It's nice to, see this coming into game. Charges deplete when you cast earth spells, and they increases the damage of earth spells by 10%. I feel like everybody's wanted something like this for a while, so it's a good.
It does break a trend, right? Like the previous two tomes came from scaling bosses, and this is not the scaling bosses, but
right.
Yeah, maybe fair enough, right? I'm not too hung up over it, and fair enough.
Yeah, and like we said, it's not like the highest of highest combat encounters compared to raids and whatnot. So we'll have to see what the community reaction is on when that arrives. There's also the dueling wand and the dueling shot. These are level 65 magic pieces of equipment. And it has the ability to autocast its own spell, which is the dueling shot. And on that, they make special note that it's a 3-tick spell, and it's going to require earth and air runes to cast on that. Base max hit of 15. Average DPS between 65 and 99 magic should be just under that of Iban's staff and the accompanying spell. So we know how much of an impact Iban's staff has, and this kind of just, snuggles in right next to that. So.
Yeah, I really like how they set off, like, to me, this is then, like, an example of good communication again. I really appreciated how they set it and compared it to the Iban staff.
Because that's something we all know.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you can really see where it sits basically on the same line as Ivan Blast, but if you add the tome, because it is affected by the tome,
it becomes more economical to use. Yeah, and it edges it out.
But you'll lose out on, say, like the Mage's book because your offhand is taken up, right? So it's an interesting trade-off, I think.
And they even provided graphs on this too, which I feel like. Do you feel like all the emphasis on this is being put on the rewards? Because there is something to be said in terms of communication when you come out with numbers, when you come out with graphs.
It's probably the thing that they can actually action feedback.
It's tangible,
right? Like, because they could share the combat encounter, but it's going to be hard for players to, until they, like, gameplay, you need to play test that, you need to feel it to give good feedback that can actually then be made actionable and acted upon. And I guess for a boss you can't, and this is to gather feedback, so, fair enough. The rewards are something we can talk about, whether they feel completely off or are close to the real thing and just need some minor number changes.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there, because in something that is pre-release, and let's just say, for example, the boss arena and the boss was in very early prototype, how exactly do you show that off? How exactly do you show mechanics off? And the answer is that you don't, whereas you can just easily show numbers and rewards easier on that. So the Prayer Regen Potion. Do you like this? Level 58 Herblore uses a Ranner and the new secondary ingredient.
I mean, the nice thing about this is that potions that regenerate prayer in some way or another are likely going to always remain relevant. Like, look at prayer potions in the game right now and how expensive they are.
They're a staple.
The two resources that are being used as inputs are Snapegrass and
Ranner. And I know that's where I first started making huge amounts of money with herb farming.
Because they're not hard things to get by, right?
Right.
And most of the money is actually on the Raynor side, but still, Snapegrass is actually, I can harvest about 100k from an allotment patch if I want.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that.
So, and these have been in the game for like
since the beginning,
many years. Since the beginning, right? So like it shows that this is a great way by giving the secondary as a boss drop. It's late here. Forgive me.
Yeah, he's had a busy day.
He's
been out stargazing and listening to music.
What?
Well, the Aurora show and
I did not look at the Aurora.
And did you listen to Eurovision?
No.
Okay. I was just trying to stereotype you.
Yeah, thanks. But like, by giving the boss a drop that is going to be used in a consumable that people will always consume, that's a really solid way of making the boss profitable even in the long run.
Right. And the first thing I saw in this was very much akin to people running around with their hair on fire, because they're like, if you reach a certain prayer boost or prayer bonus on your character, you will in effect be able to have, consistently protection prayers for 8 minutes or so. And, that's per dose. And the thing that you said going into this as well, can't you just do that by bringing an infinite number, or not an infinite number, a large amount of prayer restores? And that kind of,
that's it.
And that's the argument on that. It's just a question of whether it's, one shot you get the prayer potions, or if, as the news post said, you're getting about 8 prayer points a minute.
Yeah, I mean, we did the math. You need like a 42 prayer bonus to keep this up,
which is not hard to get.
It's not too hard to get, honestly. There's a few really good bonuses and items with good bonuses in there that you can get. If you want to go and take it that far and do it, fine. But first of all, you're still going to be consuming something, not at a massive high rate, but you're still going to be consuming something. And we did the math. If you want to combine this with anything else, like piety or even strong or steel skin, right? At that point, there's like, even with the maximum prayer bonus you can get in the game, you can't.
It starts going down.
Yes, so we did the maximum prayer bonus. We added like piety, and no, you can't. You just never can. So it's very niche in a sense. You can definitely use it in combination with prayer potions, and then you might be able to keep things up indefinitely still. But
which is what the use case is going to be, because RS3 has their prayer renewal potion, and that's exactly what it is that you use the prayer renewal potion to make it so that you use less prayer potions.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think it's an interesting balance, and you're going to have to sort of min-max if you want to figure out how exactly. I think I'm not concerned.
No, it's a neat reward space, because I think it also, like you were saying, it also opens up that prayer, that the ability to go out and fully max out your prayer stat and do this weird thing if you want to, but at the same time you can just sip a prayer regeneration potion and bring your usual prayer potions and carry on with your life as it's been for the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what is missing from this, is that there was a lot of running around with the hair on fire on this, but I don't think that this is inherently broken. And of all the rewards listed here, this one might actually be the one that I'm most interested in, not because of that I can really just extend it out now, like the numbers say and like people were saying, but just because it adds a little bit of uniqueness to what I'm going to be doing, with my prayer potions and whatnot in combat, if that makes sense. So, I'd be really curious to see what people have to say on the survey on this, because there was a survey that was up earlier in the week, as per usual, on the news post on this. So I'm wondering if these numbers, or any of these numbers from any of these rewards, are actually going to be toned down, because we said that was another thing they could possibly do with this, is that these numbers here aren't final for the regen potion or any of these things, and lo and behold, at the end of the day, they could still be changed.
Yeah.
So, but it will arrive when it arrives, and I think if anything, Project Rebalance wise and whatnot has taught us is that overall Jagex and the old school team care about balancing and won't put something into the game that's hideously broken. And that's my through line on the end of it, and that's why I really like this reward space.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem you're gonna have, and that, like, often you get a lot of criticism on Jagex about the fact that they allowed a certain exploit to get into the game, and that really comes down to knowledge and just, the game developers who are making the game, they just can't know every single thing that all of the players do, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same with QA testing. If you think about it, even if you have a team of 5 QA testers, which is way more than any small company the size of Jagex will have. But let's say, optimistically, they have 5 QA testers working at testing a particular update for a week, right? That's 200 hours of testing. 200 hours, right? Let's say you have 2,000 players playing the update for 6 minutes. That's also 200 minutes. 200 hours of testing, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they are gonna be able to come up with weird combinations that the QA.
It's those interaction bugs that are always the most interesting, and
exactly
are the ones players stumble upon and feel like, oh, this is an interaction with this content. I don't know if it was intended, but I like it. It makes my gameplay better. Please don't fix this.
And the same with these numbers, right? Like, you can come up with all of these numbers and think of all the obvious interactions with other mechanics in the game.
Yeah.
And then the first hour, someone comes up with some weird combination that nobody had thought of, and it completely breaks the game. It's inevitable.
Yeah, and that, like you say, that's the nature of game dev, and it's something Jagex has known for a long time, and they've battled with. Particularly on the PVM scene, when weird interactions like that come up, it's a question of, do you leave it or do you just really kind of lean into it? And, there have been times where they've done one thing and times where they've done another. And I guess to bring it back to these rewards is that there's going to be testing involved on this, and the numbers are one thing that Jagex is able to say that, yes, we know that this is the way it's going and we like the way it's going. And then if there's any sort of things that the players run into after that, then that'll either be caught in QA or it'll have to be something that is addressed shortly after launch, like the eye-watering XP rates some people saw in the Mage Training Arena this week, which were hotfixed promptly. But did you go to the Mage Training Arena this week at all?
No.
I myself have been cooking and fishing, because I've started and have been in the, what?
Yeah, no.
I've just been in the position where I've wanted to start knocking out these quest requirements, and I did a lot of fly fishing this week, got 62 fishing, which is our swan song requirement for the quest cape, and then 70 cooking, which is, interestingly enough, the requirement for freeing the Monkey King in Recipe for Disaster, whose name I'm not going to say because I have no idea how to say that.
Awawoge.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
Not that hard.
I was going to say Awaouiji. No?
Awawoge.
Okay. And with this pretty much brings us to the end of Recipe for Disaster, minus me forgetting my drum and branches, which is one of the huge things that we've been, working towards and angling for a while. So that's the questing update for this week. Primarily is Recipe for Disaster has come to a close or thereabouts. Just got a couple little things to do after the show finishes here today, but got that.
And then kill the guy.
Yeah, but I did that back in the day with less stats than I have right now, so I'm betting I'll be fine. Famous last words.
Mm-hmm. That's got to unlock Barrow's gloves, which is like a long overdue upgrade for us at this point.
Yeah.
I've been rocking my adamant gloves like a noob.
But see, the thing with that is that I feel like I haven't done enough combat to even need the ability to use those yet, but I have a feeling I will in the future on that. And I actually had a what I would call the most old school experience that I've had in old school RuneScape thus far this week in terms of my cooking, in that I was just cooking as you normally do. And we had a listener come by the Friends chat, say he's been enjoying the show. And he's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm cooking. I'm cooking Karambwan. And I say, then the person says, I'll trade you some Karambwan for some uncut gems. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'll go for that because, crafting is still something that I have to do on the list. And it was just all kind of surreal because this entire thing happened in about, a 10, 15 minutes period of starting to chat. And the next thing you know, we're engaging in this old school trade deal that results in me getting gems to cut, which will help me on the way to the crafting requirement. And at the end of the day, we made this trade. We didn't even use the GE. And that's why I said it's just one of the most quintessential old school RuneScape experiences that I've had in the game with this, in terms of, just finding somebody and trading out the resources to get something else from that. And I would give you a shout out on the show, but I don't necessarily want to say your name unless you want to remain anonymous. If you are listening this week and you hear this and you want your shout out next week, you can message me in game as you did this week, and I will make that happen next week on the show. But I really appreciated that interaction, and that was quite honestly the highlight of my day that day when I was doing that. So I just wanted to share that a little bit for the listeners that truly kicked it old school this week.
Awesome.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, mixed bag, like I said. Yeah, because of work circumstances and life circumstances, I just didn't get around to doing as much as I did. But I finally went to Nightmare Zone. I think I might have mentioned that last week as now being like an option, and honestly, it's been okay. I like how AFK. Well, not AFK, but it's
low input is how I would put it.
It's very low input, and it's very nice because I know I don't have to hop like 100 worlds to find an empty spot like with rock crabs or ammonite crabs, rather. So it's been okay. It's been nice. I imbued all 3 rings I have, so the Seer's ring, the Archer's ring, and the Berserker ring. I'm getting close to having enough points to imbue a Slayer helmet whenever that finally comes.
Ooh.
The Self Amulet is not a thing I need to imbue, so just saving up the points for that. And then all I need to do is save even more.
What are you at level-wise after all this?
So all of my melee combat skills are now 72. So 75 is sort of the next milestone. Most of my focus has been on strength because that was lacking about 6-7 levels behind.
Yeah, and I think the reason
because of the Abyssal Whip,
right?
To be honest.
So what are you using now for your strength weapon?
Zombie axe.
Okay.
So now that it's all roughly equal, I'm back to the whip and I'm using balanced. So I'm just train them all up in tandem. 75 all melee is sort of my my next milestone.
Yeah, I think that's a comfortable spot.
The big milestone is level 80 across the board because I think that at that point I'm comfortable. I could probably get through all of the quest bosses for the Questscape without much trouble.
And that's the key. And like I said at the beginning of our adventure here on the podcast all those weeks back, my goal with combat in old school is to use whichever style is going to be the one that, lets me do this the best. But I want to get to a point where I can just, look at most things that aren't high level PVM bosses or raids and just have them die.
Mm-hmm.
And And, I think we talked about it a little bit in the week, but just to kind of round out the coverage of Nightmare Zone, what are the bosses that you use for this setup, and what do you need to bring?
I use the ones that basically don't have any special mechanics and only use melee. Though I could probably, now that I'm using the absorption potions, I could probably add ones that don't necessarily use melee only. But yeah, basically, I use Kendall, the Troll King, Count Drainer, King Rold, 2 demons, like a jungle demon and a black demon from Legends Quest, I think.
Oh, okay.
Cassard, Guard, Bouncer, Sand Snake.
And I think Nightmare Zone was actually one of the first pieces of content, original old school contents that came into games.
And I do hard mode, so they have quite a few extra hit points, but that only makes it a little bit like the points rate. So I can do, it's about 4 hours, I would say, on an inventory.
Are you net positive
on 4 hours
on points for absorption potions?
So that's so 4 hours or so requires 16 absorption potions for me, which is a good duration. It's like 3 to 4 hours, and it gets me about 1 million points. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm gonna have to check that out next time I do combat, because I know when I was approaching 70 for attack and defense, that it really kind of started to feel a little bit slow at the crabs.
Yeah, when I was just doing Slayer, it felt reasonably fast. Now that I did Balance, I did a session the other day, I gained like 1 defense level, so it feels a little bit slower that way, but it's going to slow down anyway. It's the nature of exponential functions.
Yeah, and it just makes the grinds longer, and it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, variety is the spice of life when it comes to RuneScape related things. In that,
yeah, exactly.
Unless you're not, leaning back and enjoying your grind, change it up, do something different if you're getting bored, in my view.
Yeah, I did a bunch of Valamore thieving as well. I'm trying to get up to 72.
That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not so bad. I don't mind it. So I'll be doing that as well. But yeah, doing all the AFK stuff, I picked up my Iron Man, did some basic quests on there. Getting 43 prayer is like huge for a hardcore Iron Man.
Are you gonna? Because with that, you can't just go, oh, I'm gonna go buy dragon bones and use them at the Ecto. Are you gonna, go harvest big bones in the wilderness and then go bury them at that altar?
A hardcore Iron Man in the wilderness?
Yeah.
No.
Live dangerously.
No, I'm not entering the wilderness anytime soon. No. My current idea, but I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it, is to do a whole bunch of range and magic training at the combat camp. Ogres, Cyclopses, Ogres.
Yeah, right? That's a classic way.
And then because they drop the ensouled heads, you can use those for player training.
Right.
At the Dark Altar. And you can safe spot them at the Dark Altar, so it's really not that bad. So hopefully that will get me 43 prayer.
And then that opens up a lot more other things too.
And that opens I'm like thinking like I should really do waterfall quests, right? Because for all of the XP. But there's that bloody moss giant that just scares that just scares me, right? There's a bunch of quests I'm kind of pushing. Like the other one is like Holy Grail, right? The Holy Grail quest gives 11k prayer XP, which is a lot. But I need to kill the Black Knight Titan.
That was glorious on Leagues, by the way, with the multiplier.
Yeah, I need to figure out what to do. Like, you can flinch, so I might actually practice flinching and flinch the Black Knight Titan.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because I never imagined you doing that, but that's okay.
For like the 43 prayer, because that would go a long way there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I did the biohazard, like Plague City biohazard. I did a few quests that give money because money is hard to get by in the beginning. I did a bunch of prayer agility training. So yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. It's been a chill week.
It sounds like you had fun regardless of being busy, which I think is the crux of the matter when it comes to RuneScape, and that's why we do this, right? That's why we do the show, because we wouldn't do the show.
Yeah.
We wouldn't dedicate our weekend if we didn't get some form of enjoyment out of this and sharing this. So, but that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode, everybody. If you guys enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. I know that's a very stereotypical thing to say, but it, of course, helps the channel out. And, of course, we also do run audio versions only. That's the primary feed of this show. Update.show/OS. We're on all the big podcast services out there, Apple, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and more. Just visit update.show/OS and click on whichever one is your favorite. But we'll be back next week for another episode of the Old School RuneScape Updates. Here on anything else before we depart on our merry ways this weekend?
No.
Alrighty then.
No, not for me.
Well, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. See you then, everybody. Take care.
Bye.